Hello and welcome to Prudent IAS, one-stop solution for all the competitive exams. So again, we are back with another interesting video. This topic is from GS Paper 1, section History. The topic for the day is Land Revenue Systems during the British rule in India. Now, though a minor topic, but it is of immense significance because this will expose how the Britishers were exploiting the peasants, the Indians, and ultimately what gave rise to the peasants' revolt. So most of you must be aware which question we are going to answer today, but all those who have no idea, do join our Telegram group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS, because there we send all these questions in a day advance. There you can access others' answers, look at our evaluated copies. Also, we'll evaluate one answer daily at no cost. The approach for this video will be the same like all our previous videos. As we have chosen this topic, we'll do some discussion over this topic, then we'll give you a sample model question and then a sample model answer, where I'll be telling you the do's and don'ts of answer writing. So let's quickly start with the topic. Now, land revenue was the major source of income for the Britishers. It constituted approximately 50% of the colonial income in the early year. So what was their ultimate objective? Because this is the sole main source of income. They wanted revenue maximization, and later they also wanted political control and agrarian stability, because they wanted to pay attention to the agriculture, as this was the source of their 50% or more of the colonial income. Then the Britishers introduced three major systems to collect the land revenue in India. These were Zamindari, Ryotwadi and Mahalwadi. In 1772, Warren Hastings had introduced a farming system, but it was not so successful. So these three are the major ones which we need to study in some detail. They were implemented between the 18th and the 19th century, the late 18th, 19th. These systems reshaped the land ownership rights. How they did it, we'll look at in the upcoming slides. They fundamentally altered the taxation structure and transformed the agrarian society. So very important how the society was changing. First up is the Zamindari system, or also known as the permanent settlement system. This was implemented by Lord Cornwallis. Now, the aim of these PPTs is to make you understand that when you are reading a topic, what all key points you need to keep in mind. This is how you can even make your notes. This will help you in answer writing as well. So, it was implemented by Lord Cornwallis. In the year is 1793. So facts are very important. It covered Bengal, Bihar, Odisha and the Varanasi regions. The structure, the main features were that the Zamindars were the landowners. They were recognized as the landowners. The peasants were reduced to the tenant status. So what happened in the traditional rural society, there was no concept of Zamindars being the landowners. Zamindars used to just collect the revenue from the peasants, and peasants had the land ownership rights. But because of this system, the peasants were made tenants on their own lands, and the zameen were given to the Zamindars. Under this arrangement, this system covered approximately 19% of the Indian continent. Now, the revenue was collected from the peasants through the Zamindars. So, the Zamindars were the responsible authorities who paid rents to the Britishers after collecting it from the peasants. They paid fixed revenue to the British. See, the name says the permanent settlement. So, the Britishers had fixed a certain amount that, okay, you are going to pay us this much amount to the Britishers, and the Zamindars, they had no clause or there was no mentioning that how much revenue Zamindars could extract. For example, Britishers charge, suppose 1,000 rupees from the Zamindars. They had to pay this much, but it was not mentioned how much Zamindar is going to charge to the peasant. So Zamindar, the revenue kept by the Britishers was so high that in the earlier years, Zamindar was under too much pressure. So they also wanted to extract as much revenue possible from the peasants. So if they are paying 1,000, they'll keep some margin. They might even charge 2,000. They might even charge 3,000. The peasants were exploited under the hands of the Zamindar. And there was also some loss occurring to the Britishers, because Britishers had fixed this system. Now they are charging 1,000 rupees. But if the land is productive, the peasant is paying 2,000, then too they cannot increase the amount. So this was the drawback of the system. Now the zamindars kept only 1/11th of the collection and the East India Company took the 10/11th position. For example, 11% will be kept by the zamindars and 89% will be given to the Britishers. So no matter how much the zamindar is getting from the peasant, the system was fixed. This was the fixed amount. This also had one sunset clause, very important. Now, a date was decided that the zamindars had to pay the fixed revenue to the Britishers on this date. And if on that date before sunset, that's why the sunset clause, they failed to pay the Britishers the fixed revenue, then the land under that zamindar could be auctioned or sold. So this was a drawback for the zamindars. They were in high pressure to pay the Britishers on time. Now, what were the impacts of this permanent settlement? It led to the absentee landlordism. What is absentee landlordism? This gave rise to a system where the zamindar, who was actually responsible to pay the Britishers, he started living in the cities or some nearby developed place, and he chose a local zamindar who used to extract the amount from the peasants. Now, the peasants were under the double exploitation because, of course, if the local zamindar will also take out some margin for himself. So this gave rise to the absentee landlord because the landlord, the zamindar, was absent and some local zamindar was responsible for getting the revenues. No incentive to improve the agriculture. Now, the permanent settlement, it was thought that when the zamindars will be given the land ownership rights, then they will definitely invest in the lands, that they will work for the betterment of the, but that nothing of sort happened because in the earlier years the revenue was very high, due to which the lands under the zamindars were auctioned, they were sold. So the zamindars mainly focused on generating revenue, profit maximization, and not investing in the agriculture to improve the agriculture. So this led to the stagnation in the rural economy. Now the peasants, that is the ryots, often faced high rent, eviction and exploitation. They were under extreme exploitation under the hands of the zamindars. What is the relevance? Now, uprisings like Pabna revolt, which was in Bengal, were reactions to the zamindari oppression. So while reading any topic, you are supposed to establish some linkages between the topics. For example, when you will read the peasant revolt, then you will have to understand why the peasants were so agitated, they were so against the Britishers. What were the changes taking place in the society, and that understanding will come from these settlement and land revenue systems. Next, we have the Ryotwadi system. Now, what is Ryot? The peasant. Thomas Munro established this system around 1820. It operated in Madras, Bombay, Assam and Coorg provinces. Now, this was first started in the Baramahal but later spread to Madras, Bombay Presidency, Assam and some Coorg provinces as well. So after having a look at the permanent settlement, Thomas Munro was aware that okay, we are not going to keep the revenue fixed. Why? Because we want maximum profit. So they learned from the permanent settlement, and therefore in the Ryotwadi system, the revenue was not permanent but it was revised periodically. Unlike the zamindari, the peasants, that is the ryots, they were the landowners. The zamindars were not the landowners. They were recognized as the landowners with right to transfer and sell land. They paid taxes directly to the British collectors without middlemen. Now, under the permanent settlement, the Britishers realized, Thomas Munro realized that okay, we are paying hefty amounts to the zamindars, and why to share our profits with the zamindars when we can get it directly from the ryots. So this was the Ryotwadi system. Now, coming to the drawbacks, first up, the revenue was so high. The dry land tax was approximately 50%, which was for the non-irrigated. Dry land is the non-irrigated farmland. 60% tax was for the wetland, that is, higher rate was kept on the irrigated land, and it was very high because they were not even considering any natural disasters. For example, the full payment was demanded regardless of harvest quality, regardless of any droughts, any flood, nothing was taken into account. Anyhow, the peasant had to pay the amount to the Britishers. So they were exploited by the Britishers under this settlement as well. What were the impacts? High revenue demand often caused indebtedness and the distress. Of course, because the peasant fails to, for example, if there is some flood, natural disaster, the crop is destroyed, but ultimately the peasant will have to pay the amount to the Britishers. He will go for loans, and then again this cycle will continue, and it will lead to a debt trap for the peasants. So due to which they will even sell their lands. Some peasants were forced to become the tenants on their own lands. Why? Because they were not even able to generate the revenue, so they sold their lands as well. Some freedom and incentive for the peasants, but no security during the crop failure. So yes, of course, the peasants had some hold on the land, better than the permanent settlement in this aspect, but there was no security during the crop failure, natural disasters. This gave rise to the money lenders and the rural indebtedness. So a new class was emerging, money lender, trader, zamindar, which earlier did not exist. Third one is the Mehelwari system. Now, Holt Mackenzie designed this approximately 1822 was the year. It targeted community-based revenue collection. Now, what happened? James Thomson in 1833 revised this system. He made adjustments to improve the revenue flow. So originally the system was devised by Holt Mackenzie, but James Thomson revised this. So the years, the key pioneers are important. Now this covered Northwest Province, Central India, Punjab, parts of UP and MP. The British administrators regularly revised, reviewed, and adjusted the tax rates based on the productivity and land quality. So one important point was the land was assessed, the quality was checked, and accordingly the price was kept. Now what is Mehelwari? See, Mahel is a group of villages. So the village headman or the zamindar of that village, they were responsible for paying the revenue of whole village. From the peasants, they will be collecting and they will be paying. So this gave system to the rise. Mahel was this whole group of villages. That's why the Mehelwari system. So the village headmen or the zamindars were paying the revenue. Now, what were the features? First up, the settlement was made directly by the village communities, that is the Mahel or collective landowners. Then the revenue assessment was assessed for the entire Mahel and collected jointly. Now, why this? Because it was easy to administer and get the revenue. You just have to take the revenue from the landowner. So it was easy to maintain and efficient for the Britishers as well. They maintained the community ownership patterns. Instead of the individual private ownership, the community ownership pattern was risen. It led to elite village dominance. Of course, the one who is responsible for paying the revenue will dominate the peasants, especially by the upper caste and the large farmers. So there was again exploitation. It failed to bring agrarian improvements due to high assessment. The problem common to all the three were the high assessment, the high revenue which was charged. Another important point to keep in mind is, see, the traditional rural society, it was based on cooperation, right? Everyone used to cooperate. But because of these systems, the village men were turning against themselves. Why? See, the upper caste, the large farmers, the zamindars, the village headmen, they were all the part of the villages. Now, if they are exploiting the peasants, there will be a situation of conflict. So the traditional cooperative system converted into the system of conflict between the caste. Various class also rose, which were not existing earlier. So you have to read it along with all these facts, along with the changes in the society, the causes which are ultimately giving rise to the peasants' revolt. British land revenue systems prioritized revenue over agrarian welfare. While structurally different, all three led to the agrarian distress, rural indebtedness, and social unrest. Now, While writing the answers, I always mention you need to focus on specific terminologies. What is this terminology? I'll specially mention a slide with all the terms you need to write in these answers. Legacy of exploited systems continued post-independent land reforms also. So this is a continuing process. How you are going to learn all these points? By a comparative table. You will write all the parameters, the permanent, Rayotwadi and Mehelwadi. This will help you in quick revision, in better memorizing of the facts as well. So you'll write introduced by Cornwallis, Munro and Mackenzie. Regions are very important. The percentage, for example, 19% here, 52 here and 66% was Mehelwadi. Landowner, Zamindar, Rayot and village, that is Mehel. Revenue fixation was permanent under the Zamindari system, periodic under the Rayotwadi and periodic in the Mehelwadi as well. State peasant link was indirect. Why? Because the Zamindar used to pay the revenue. It was direct. The Britishers collected the rent directly from the peasants or the Rayots. Now indirect again because the Mehel, that is a village headman community system, was developed. Impact on the peasants, of course, exploitation, eviction. Why eviction? Because the Zamindars were the landowners. Indebtedness, because the revenue was so high, even the tenants, even the Rayots had the ownership rights, but they had to sell it ultimately. Community burden was increased under the Mehelwadi system. So all the features summarized in a table. These tables can be even used while writing short answers, the 10-mark answers if the comparative answer is asked. Now, focus on these points. That is the key terminology. While writing the answers, you must have good hold on language proficiency and the specific terms for each subject. Here, there are certain economic terms, structural terms, and political legacy. Now, these terms are not only going to help you in this answer, but as a history as a whole as well. So, revenue maximization, extractive colonialism while writing answers, while writing essays, these terms can be used. Rentier class, indebted peasantry, commercialization, subsistence crisis, agrarian stagnation. Why? Because there was no incentives to work, improve the agriculture. So it gave rise to agrarian stagnation. Monetization of the economy, land alienation, crop failure, burden, intermediary landlordism, absentee land, very important term, fragmentation of land holdings, disruption of the village economy, erosion of customary rights, loss of the community control, Mehel as the revenue unit. So we'll write Mehel as the revenue unit. This is the term you are going to use while writing the answer. Village elite were empowered. Breakdown of the communal tenure. Periodic revenue revisions. Now political and legacy terms will be peasant discontent, which gave rise to the peasant revolts. Rural stratification, there was a rise of the class, the peasants, then the intermediary level, zamindars, traders, money lenders, and then the Britishers at top. Grassroots resistance, so it was giving rise to the mass resistance existing at the grassroots, not the money lender, not the trader, but the peasants. Agrarian unrest, colonial legitimization of inequality, precursor to land reforms. It was of course a precursor because of these stress, land reforms were brought in. Peasant movements, nationalist mobilization, legacy of inequality, and post-independence land reforms. So these are all the terms which can be used while writing answers, which can be used while developing linkages. Because most of the students say that when we start writing the answers, then we are totally blank. We have conceptual clarity, but what actually to write? We don't have a good hold on that vocab, the terms. So for those students specifically, the slide is here. You can even take a screenshot if you want. Now, the major section of our video is always a model question because this is a free answer writing series. So the question for the day is critically analyze. Keep in mind the directive word. How the British land revenue policies altered the structure of rural India and laid the foundation for agrarian unrest. A 15-mark, 250-word question. As I always say, just pause this video, write and answer yourself, but make sure that the timer is on. So you keep a check on the time as well. What you can do, either send us your answers in the group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS, or you can do some self-evaluation because in the next slide, I'll be discussing the answer. So you can just check the answer yourself as well. In the directive word series, I have already mentioned what each directive word means, and that's an exhaustive series. If you have not watched that video yet, you can go back and watch. For now, critically analyze means we'll have to be very skeptical and write both the positives as well as the negatives in the answer. Let's jump to the model answer. Always follow the intro, body, conclusion approach. Do not write these headings, structural headings like introduction, just for your understanding. Start from here. Now, the British land revenue policies in India served colonial interests through permanent Riot and Mehelwadi settlements, transforming the traditional agrarian structures. If it was a short answer, this was sufficient. But since it's a long answer, you can write, these systems created exploitative intermediaries, widespread peasant debt, rural inequality, ultimately triggering the agrarian unrest throughout colonial India. Please focus on the words, the way the structure, the sentences are framed. So this is an introduction that gives the insights about the topic. Now, under the body, you are going to write structural changes in rural India. Thus, heading is as per the question demand, because the question is asking about the changes, structural changes. But the question is, the directive word is critically analyze. So first, we will have to mention at least one or two positive aspects, and then we'll move towards the negative aspects. So the positive aspects can be introduction of property rights. Now, the Riotwari and Mehelwadi system recognized the individual or community land rights, which was a step towards formalizing the land ownership. Administrative efficiency, creation of clear revenue collection mechanisms helped streamline the colonial administration and reduce the arbitrary local taxation. So what's important, the content we have already discussed. Heading, subheading format can be used. Use the alphanumeric digits ABC, 1, 2, etc. Just make sure there is some alignment to make the presentation better. Now quickly we'll jump to the negative aspects. The structure is kept more or less the same. Now while structuring these answers, a common mistake is sometimes students will write 1 and 2 subheading, but in the next points they will skip the subheading. Just maintain the structure. If you are using subheadings, then use it for all. If you are having short of words that lack of content, just start right away from the point. Skip the subheading in that case. But better write the subheading and then the point. Emergence of the new landholding classes. Permanent settlement 1793 created the class of absentee land zamindars. Traditional village level community ownership was also disrupted. So these were the negative aspects, that a new class was created which was exploiting the peasants. Disempowerment of the cultivators under the Riotwadi and Mehelwadi also. The empowered village elites marginalized these small peasants. In the Riotwadi, the peasants held the land titles, but the revenue demands were so high that it left them dependent on the money lenders. Commercialization without support. Revenue had to be paid in cash regardless of yield, pushing farmers to grow cash crops and borrow, increasing the vulnerability to the market shocks. Then land alienation and indebtedness. We have used these terms in the terminology as well. It was due to the failure to pay the revenue or repay the loans it was a widespread practice, especially among tribal and marginal communities. So very briefly, we have described all the dimensions. Just focus that we have kept 1, 2, 3, 4 dimensions. So you are also supposed to write multiple dimensions. Do not go on under one dimension writing in depth. Then the second aspect was, so this was the first part, that what were the impacts. Now the foundation, why was this the foundation of the agrarian unrest? First up is the economic distress and famines, because the revenue was so rigid during the famines. For example, the Bengal famine was so devastating in 1943 that it reflected the exploitative priorities. Frequent rural famines worsened the agrarian and dissatisfaction was rising. Peasant resistant movements were also rising. For example, the Pavna in Bengal, Deccan riots in 1875, Tebhaga, Telangana. The direct results of revenue oppression and land alienation was rising. These movements had social, economic, not just the political origin. So while reading these movements, you have to be very careful about all the dimensions: political, social, as well as the economic dimensions. These were the foundations of the agrarian unrest and the rise of the peasants' revolts. Next up, legacy of rural inequality. Again, this term has been mentioned in the terminology chart. the British policies institutionalized the rural class, divides that continued post-independence, which necessitated the land reforms post-independence. So, the points to be noted over here are, we have addressed all the aspects, we have used a very clear structure, we have not breached the word limit, and we have used subject-specific terminology. Now, do not skip this conclusion. No matter how many dimensions are asked, keep some word limit for conclusion. Make it very concise. British land revenue policies irreversibly altered the rural India's socio-economic structure by prioritizing the extracting over the agriculture welfare. They created a rural economy which was marked by distress, class stratification, and unrest. So all the points are summed up. The exploitative nature is highlighted in the conclusion. So conclusion is a balanced conclusion. That's it for today. I hope you have a clear picture in mind about the land revenue systems, a question and an answer. Just subscribe our channel Prudent IAS and join our Telegram group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS. We'll be back with another video super soon. Thanks for watching.